All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a recent Fox News interview with White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt. And what we're really doing here is mapping out the administration's core messaging strategy, objectively, piece by piece. We're going to look at the anatomy of a political pitch, seeing exactly how they weave a personal narrative into hard policy to try and connect with the public. Now, the interview actually starts with a super relatable hook. Leavitt is just coming back from maternity leave, and she opens up about how she navigates this intensely demanding public service role while being a mom to two kids under 2. She literally says, "I have time for my children and my husband and work. Everything else is on the back burner right now, but I wouldn't have it any other way." It's a really smart, humanizing entry point before they pivot into the heavy policy talk. So here's our agenda for the explainer. We'll trace how this interview builds from that personal story into stark ideological contrasts and rapid-fire policy claims. We'll hit the working mother narrative, tackling the affordability crisis, healthcare and immigration claims, capitalism versus socialism, and wrap up with moving at Trump speed. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the working mother narrative, or balancing family and the West Wing. According to Leavitt, she manages the sheer sacrifice of public service by fiercely protecting time for her kids. She frames her role as a temporary 4-year commitment when you compare it to her children's whole lives. She even talks about maximizing nap times just to get office work done. And this actually points to a broader messaging tactic. She highlights this supportive baby boom environment within the administration, mentioning folks like the vice president and Katie Miller. And she specifically gives credit to Chief of Staff Susie Wiles for having the backs of young working parents. It's really designed to paint a picture of a highly family-accommodating administration. Moving right along to Section 2, tackling the affordability crisis, focusing on the economic argument. Now, what's fascinating here is the pivot. She transitions straight from her personal life right into the #1 voter issue, the cost of living. She places the blame for the affordability crisis squarely on the previous administration and then lays out their own economic response. It's a very distinct 3-step formula: tax cuts, deregulation, and energy dominance. She frames this 3-pronged approach as the administration's absolute core focus, working on it every single day to bring financial relief to Americans. Digging into that first step, tax cuts, she makes a crucial argument. The administration claims they delivered historic tax relief for the middle class. But pay attention to the messaging strategy embedded here. She goes out of her way to emphasize that this move was totally opposed by the other side of the aisle, claiming every single Democrat voted against it. It's a classic move to set up a crystal clear contrast for the viewer. And that brings us to their big economic pitch for the future, anchored by a massive number, $300,000. Leavitt hypes up a proposal for what they call Trump accounts. She claims that if children sign up today, those accounts will yield nearly $300,000 in savings by the time they turn 18. She literally describes this policy as handing kids the American dream on a silver platter. And of course, she immediately reiterates that their political opponents are totally against it. All right, on to Section 3, healthcare and immigration claims, looking at how they plan to tackle costs and fraud. So the pitch now evolves to address those huge voter concerns over healthcare costs, and specifically how the administration connects that issue directly to immigration. Their stated game plan is to force price transparency and strike deals to undercut the power of massive pharmaceutical and insurance companies. But here's the real pivot. She zeroes in on stopping rampant state-level healthcare fraud. She specifically frames this as a mission to stop healthcare benefits from going to undocumented immigrants, or illegal aliens, as she puts it. The argument is that the administration is shutting this down to ensure those resources stay exclusively with American citizens. Next up, Section 4, capitalism versus socialism. This is the ideological contrast. We're basically at the climax of the interview now. Prompted by some recent Fox News polling on socialism, the whole conversation frames the upcoming midterm elections as this stark black and white ideological choice. Leavitt sets up a direct binary for the audience. She defines the Republican platform as completely rooted in free market capitalism, small business, and letting you keep more of your own money. On the flip side, she labels the Democratic platform as having essentially capitulated to communism. She characterizes it as a system reliant on massive government control that's just focused on taking your money away. And this quote perfectly captures her core argument about this divide. She says, "Their only real answer to any problem is to just take more from the individuals who make that country great and give it to the government." She's using this to argue that the appeal of free government programs, things like food and healthcare, is a dangerous illusion. It masks the reality of who's actually footing the bill. It's a direct warning to the viewer. hey, as taxpayers, you're the ones who will end up paying for this. Finally, we hit Section 5, moving at Trump speed, analyzing the track record. To sum up the administration's track record as they hit the halfway mark of the presidential term, she drops a very specific branding term to describe their momentum: Trump speed. This is all about the rapid, forceful execution of their agenda. Honestly, it's a rhetorical tool carefully designed to project a sense of relentless high energy and unyielding progress across all their sweeping domestic and foreign policy goals. And to back up this claim of moving at Trump speed, she fires off a quick list of achievements: securing the border, deporting undocumented immigrants, getting programs like Trump accounts going, and passing those historic tax cuts. On the global stage, she points to rebuilding the military to stand against rogue nations, specifically calling out Iran and its nuclear ambitions. The whole thing serves as a really comprehensive, high-energy wrap-up of their platform. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. Just how effectively does weaving a personal, relatable story, like being a new working mom, with such intense ideological contrasts and rapid-fire policy claims, shape the way independent voters perceive a political pitch? By taking a step back and objectively mapping out these strategies, we can really start to understand the underlying architecture of political communication. Thanks so much for diving into this with me, and definitely keep an ear out for these tactics the next time you hear a political pitch.